Hello, and welcome to our Pharma Trends discussion powered by Cascades, Level X's Mechanism of Action solution. My name is Melissa Nokar, Senior Vice President, Marketing at Level X. I am honored to be joined today by Dr. Jerome Lisk, board-certified neurologist with a fellowship in movement disorders, and Dr. Sean Sin, Assistant Professor of Pediatrics, Northwestern University, Feinberg School of Medicine, and a double-boarded neonatal cardiologist. Today, we will cover trends surrounding education for newly approved pharmaceutical therapies and ways that pharmaceutical companies can provide added value and support to physicians for improved disease management and patient care. Let's start with a few thought-provoking statistics. A recent survey found that only 10% of HCPs say they want to return to pre-COVID norms for in-person meetings. How has COVID impacted your learning methods, especially with regards to the mechanism of action, mechanism of disease, and other pharmaceutical education, and the nature of your interactions with pharmaceutical medical sales liaisons and sales representatives? Also, what newly developed habits are, in your opinion, here to stay? Dr. Lisk, let's start with your thoughts.
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And, COVID has really impacted the pharmaceutical industry being able to reach physicians because a lot of pharmaceutical representatives have not been able to come back to the office to be able to show us their learning materials. The one thing I believe that the pharmaceutical companies are really going towards is more graphics, more things that they could kind of send us so that when we can't do in-person meetings, they can still, teach us things. So the things I think that are here to stay, Zoom has impacted all of our lives and has, especially the medical community. And so we're doing more Zoom meetings with pharmaceutical reps, and they're really trying to use more visual aids.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Dr. Sen?
Yeah, Melissa, thanks. It's great to be here and really appreciate the opportunity. I totally agree with Dr. Lisk. The pandemic really had a big shift in medical education, even just working in an academic setting. You had, with the absence of traditional platforms, we've really come up with different ways to continue medical education through innovative avenues. And of course, case-based learning, flipped classroom methods where we're providing reading material before sort of the interactive sessions, as well as just telemedicine platforms such as Zoom. It sort of redefined the whole concept of e-learning. So I think using those modalities to teach and continue that in a virtual setting, I think is really sort of push the boundaries of our learning. So
yeah, couldn't agree more. Absolutely. So one challenge that we know was around long before COVID is the realm of health literacy. According to the National Association for Adult Literacy, study published by Health and Human Services Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion, only 12% of US adults have proficient health literacy. Additionally, several studies have proven the connection between limited health literacy and decreased understanding of appropriate medication use. That means an alarming percentage of American adults struggle to comprehend medication guides, and many admit to not reading them at all. What is it about mechanism of action or mechanism of disease content that hinders its widespread fluency? When explaining MOA and MOD to your patients, what is challenging about conveying it? Or on the flip side, what is effective? Dr. Lisk, your thoughts?
Well, I would tell you that with neurology, the overwhelming majority of my patients don't even know what the neurological disorder is. When we talk about Parkinson disorders, all my patients think that every Parkinson disorder is Parkinson disease. And not only them, the ER physicians, primary care many times. And so first of all, you have to explain you have Parkinson disease, you have multiple system atrophy, you have Lewy body dementia. You have to explain the disease first. And then you have to explain the mechanism of action. But once you've already explained the disease, a lot of times patients are overwhelmed. And so you kind of have to break this up into bits. And so one visit, we'll talk about the disease process. The next visit, we'll talk about mechanisms of action. And I have found that, there's companies like Health Monitor that will have these screens you put in the room that really will show things more graphically. And companies like Accorda, a company that has a medication called Ambrosia, they have these little boxes with little videos that show the patients, the mechanisms of action. So patients really respond well to visual demonstration of mechanisms of action.
Yeah. Dr. Sen, what are you seeing in cardiology?
Yeah, I completely agree with Dr. Lisk. Even just taking a step back, when you think about mechanism of disease is complex, and we spend 4 years of medical school learning an incredible amount of information, medical terms, pathophysiology, the origin of wards and their meaning. And I joke around about this, but I'll tell my wife about oh, this baby had multiple rhabdomyomas in the tricuspid valve inlet, and she'll be like, rabbits located where, and it's one of those things where understanding treatment modalities and medication use, there's with increase in medication compliance, understanding disease processes, and all of those will help push healthcare literacy. And so, from a cardiac standpoint, I continually draw out, anatomy and sort of some of the medications that we use, and to be able to sort of have a video interface, or even just some of the novel ways that we use technology these days, it can really just sort of minimize the extra time that can be spent and try to improve that understanding. So
yeah, definitely. LevelX has a long track record of creating interactive MOA, MOD that draws medical professionals into the action at a molecular, cellular, and physiological level. Our newest solution, coming soon, Cascades, is a toolbox of interactive learning experiences to explore and deepen healthcare professionals' understanding of MOA and MOD. Given that analyses show the current pipeline increasingly focusing on more innovative mechanisms, we see this solution becoming increasingly important in the years to come. This shift also signals an increase in drug discovery and development for rare diseases. I'm going to ask you guys two-part questions here, but Dr. Lisk, we'll start with you. You've done a lot of work in Parkinson's disease. What developments do you think may be, or you hope will be, in the pipeline to help patients suffering with this disease?
Well, there's a couple different mechanisms that we're looking at right now. So one is alpha-synuclein molecules that can actually precipitate out the abnormal protein called alpha-synuclein that's involved with a lot of different disorders, especially Parkinson's disease. But if we could kind of pull that out the spinal fluid, that abnormal protein that builds up, and that is, we believe, is the basis of disease, then that is something that companies already have been looking at for a few years now. Also, as you know, gene therapy and stem cell therapy are huge. If we could grow back some of these neurons, there was a drug called GnRH that grew back nerves in the putamen, the part of the brain that's basically around the brainstem there, and was able to kind of grow back some of these cells that produce dopamine in Parkinson's patients. But unfortunately, that drug had, a couple bad side effects to it that was pulled out of research. But, those are the three main things that I'm very hopeful for in the future, that I think we're making good strides and progress with.
Yeah, very insightful. Dr. Sen, what pharmaceutical innovations are you most excited about, and why?
Yeah, Melissa, that's a great question. I take care of babies that are very small, and some of these babies that are almost 4 months premature, and many times their organs, especially their lungs, are still very premature. One medicine that we use often is a medicine called surfactant. It helps to keep the lungs open. But the way we administer it can be challenging. It's almost a syrup type consistency. It's an older drug, but the holy grail in neonatology has been that if there's a way for us to administer this aerosolized or nebulized. And so, right now there's been trials, and I believe it's currently in a phase 1 trial, but that's probably what I'm most excited about, is being able to coming up with new drug delivery systems. But even then, when you think about it, it isn't easy. Understanding the mechanism of action, how it integrates with other molecules, understanding the efficacy of the drug all of that plays a big factor in its success. So
yeah, awesome. That will be excellent to keep an eye on over the next couple months. Thank you both for this great discussion. This is where we get a little playful. Want to have a little fun with our final question. I feel awkward even saying it, but here we go. If you could be any protein, signaling molecule, or receptor in an MOA sequence, what would you be and why? Dr. Lisk, let's start with you.
All right, I've been thinking about this all week since we did our first little thing. So I would be GABA. GABA is the #1 inhibitory transmitter in the brain. And right now with this pandemic and the politics and everything going on across the world, I think we all just need to kind of calm down. So I'm going to calm everyone down with GABA, the inhibitory. I'm going to inhibit the anger. I'm going to inhibit the rhetoric. I'm going to inhibit the lies.
I like it.
Everything negative.
Most definitely. Oh, so good. Dr. Sin, what have you got?
That's a tough one. I am a believer of the mantra to be mindful of your actions and how it impacts, like how you have impacted others. And, one medicine that we use commonly is a cardiac glycoside, digoxin or digitalis. It's actually naturally comes from like a foxglove plant. And we use it in pediatrics, but it's interesting. I've always just found it interesting because it never actually acts on the receptor. It actually acts on another receptor, which influences the other receptor. And so when you sort of think about how the heart contracts, it needs calcium inside the tissue. And so it actually doesn't even affect the sodium calcium channels. It actually attacks the sodium potassium pumps, and it indirectly impacts it. So I've always thought of that as a unique molecule and mechanism of action.
Very cool. I didn't realize this was going to be such a soul session. Appreciate both of those responses. Can't wait to share these insights with the team and in upcoming conversations with our pharmaceutical partners. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, both of you. It was an absolute pleasure. To our viewers, thanks for tuning in. As you are thinking about potential impacts of these trends and considerations for your business objectives, we would love to hear from you. For those participating in Digital Pharma East, Level X would welcome the opportunity to continue the discussion with you at the event. So please reach out if you're interested in meeting up with us. As always, for more information or to request a demo, please visit us at levelx.com.